Hey, everybody, coming at you with the much longer, spoilery version of my movie review. Again, for those who follow, this is how I got started doing this, which whole spiel. 98% of the time, I go to the movies by myself. Don't have anyone to discuss it with, so I thought I'd come on here and just start discussing movies with people who are like minded and love movies like I do. I love movies, grew up on movies. Hopefully someday want to own and create my own movie theater. I own over 4,000 movies on DVD because I'm not going to let streaming companies decide what stories we can see and learn from. We should have that ownership and that choice. So, and trying to encourage people to go back to the movie theaters because 2026 has been such a great year of movies. Case in point, another really good one. And I've heard a lot of mixed reviews on Brink of War. A lot of people who don't like the dialogue heavy movies, and I get it. It's not obviously for everybody, but so this is definitely going to have spoilers in it for the longer version. If you want my spoiler free version, go see my minute stuff. But I just like to come on here and discuss and hopefully have other people who've seen it tell me what they thought, whether you agree or disagree with me. Totally fine, because that's the beauty of life, right? We can all like and not like different things. We don't have to gatekeep things from each other. Obviously, first thing, kind of the elephant in the room, Angel Studios, right? And I've seen some very heavy-handed Angel Studio stuff, and there's obviously a bunch of Angel Studio trailers in front. However, I've seen a lot of actors with a lot of big talent, big names gravitating towards. I saw a trailer with Owen Wilson is going to be in a movie and other stuff. Anyway, so like I loved Solo Mio. I mean, not loved it, but I thought it was a really good movie and seemed like a nice adult rom-com that didn't have kind of the overwhelm hit me with a hammer type of Angel Studio things. And I would say this one as well. I was worried because of movies like the AI made Young Washington, which I don't think was Angel Studios, but also Great Awakening, which is very similar to Angel Studios, and those were both just really heavy-handed stuff about founding, and it was kind of a utopian vision of what they imagine people should believe are the founding values of the United States without any kind of commentary or criticism. So anyway, I went in with this with that same kind of thing. I thought, what is this going to be? But what it turned out to be was this really beautiful movie. Yeah, it's a lot of dialogue, but for me, I like stage play movies, if you know what I mean. I like movies that seem like you could just put them on the middle of a stage with a very limited set and just let the actors go and we'll wind them up and just let them go. And that feels the very same. I know there's other people who don't like kind of like bottle episodes of TV or bottle movies where it's taking place in one location and there's not a lot of change of set, but I think that really does it its service. And again, spoilers in this. One of the things I love about it is as Reagan and Gorbachev get closer, if you notice the table that they start out at such a huge distance, and then by the end they're basically sitting at a two-seater table. The closer they get, the table changes, the scenery changes, the setting changes. It's just a really cool thing. Jared Harris, who I adore, and I can't remember if I did before Mad Men, but Mad Men definitely clinched it. Him as Lane Price, devastating, right? If you've seen Mad Men, you know what I mean. And this, as Gorbachev, the way he carries kind of the hope of reform of Gorbachev, when you think about Glasnost and Perestroika, but also kind of he doesn't have the rose-colored vision of, the rah-rah Soviet Pravda stuff going on. He sees a desperate situation and he knows he's got to play his cards. And so this is the kind of the poker game that exists between Jeff Daniels, Ronald Reagan, and his Gorbachev is fun to watch. It's fun to watch these two actors. Both of them have cards they don't want to show, and they're playing, decoy hands, left hand, right hand doesn't know what it's doing. It's a fun little cat and mouse game that has breaks, right? They meet and then they go off and have different world conversations with their staff. And so J.K. Simmons playing Secretary of State George Shultz, and I thought, wow, I loved him in this role. Um, just the whole idea of coming together, in a way that, as I said in my shorter version, I grew up in Cheyenne, Wyoming, which is, for all intents and purposes, next to a very strategic missile defense base. It's basically one of the only Air Force bases in the United States that doesn't have runways because it is a missile command base. So we grew up with that knowledge in the Cold War, and I remember always just being terrified growing up. Right, there was a TV miniseries called America with a K. I think it had Chris Christopherson. It freaked me out. I remember hiding under my bed that the Russians were coming. Obviously, movies like Red Dawn that I probably saw when I was too young to watch it. Just all this stuff that was coming out, I remember being deathly afraid of being nuked. And I think that was encouraged in our town. Like, people were like, well, this is going to be one of the ground zeros. And I remember just being obsessed. And I remember friends telling me about this too, obsessed with the Soviet Union and what is it going to do? And it's its move. And so when everything fell in college, I went over to Russia a couple times and got to know the people, had long conversations with people over there, former nuclear scientists or whatever, about what we were told as kids and what they were told as kids. And it was really kind of calming. And I remember one of my first memories, beyond the Challenger exploding in third grade, I remember how happy I was. I remember I had a Berlin Wall poster in my room of it coming down. I was so excited for this world to, the tense world we lived in, the divided world to fall. That I remember crying just out of joy. And like when I went to Russia, the happiness of kind of this open society that I'd always been taught to fear, and it always sticks in my mind. It was just definitely a major part of my childhood. We grew up in bomb shelters, and they were fun to play hide and seek in. But this movie reminded me of all that, like what was going on behind the scenes. This whole real play of mutual assured destruction that was playing out while we were watching it in movies like Red Dawn and War Games and Superman 4, for all intents and purposes, which was about the failure of these conferences to stop nuclear missiles, and Superman having to take it upon himself and throw them in the sun. Then he gets attacked by Nuclear Man. What's not to love? Meryl Hemingway, top notch. Love her. I think she got a raw deal. John Cryer's in it, right? So, but anyway, this is what we were growing up in, this pop culture of it. You think about Land of Confusion, the Genesis video with Reagan hitting the nuke instead of the nurse button. This was all of our lives, nuclear protests and songs. And this just reminded me of all of that. So it put me in a big nostalgic mood. And just the idea right now of how important this movie is, to remember a time when we valued having a conversation to de-escalate the war. And this is a big message of the movie, is we've spent so many years of human history just destroying each other, right? And I thought about that too, like 80 years since World War II, and now we're heading back into the stuff. And I thought constantly about how many times have humans, how many hundreds of years, like, is there been a 100-year period where humans haven't fought each other in a major war? And we tried to rebuild the world into alliances and fix things after World War II, and now we're dismantling it, and it's really sad. And here was a time when Reagan stood up and said, we have to do what's right to make peace. And Gorbachev said, we have to do what's right to make peace. And two people who had everything to lose decided to work together. And now we're faced with going back into aggressive stances. Here was a world where we stood up to countries that were against democracy, and now, especially today, with siding with North Korea, we seem to be embracing countries that want to destroy democracy. And so it was a refreshing world to remember, and kind of a heartily sad movie to remember those times. I would definitely go see it for the message, and definitely stick around to the end. Jeff Daniels gives a really heartfelt message about the value of talking to each other, and offers free tickets for people to come see this movie. And I would definitely encourage people to see it, to remember who we were, to remember the importance, especially as an international relations teacher, the importance of diplomacy, talking, ratcheting down, de-escalating. go see this movie. I think it's going to mean a lot.